here we are, coming to the end. These posts have come a long way themselves. They were twisted, buffeted atop a hill somewhere in the wilds of northern New York. And now they are not quite tamed, but at the very least, rounded. And I'm going to use all my small blades to do so. My two favorite tools to use here are my Spokeshave and my low-angle block plane. The Spokeshave takes off an awful lot of material in a hurry and gets you rounded about as fast as you could want. The low-angle block plane I like because it's more controlled, if you will. You're not taking off quite so much material, but it really does give you a better way to get that nice rounded, smooth feel. The transition from the grain, essentially, or going with the grain, to the end grain is a little tricky, for me at least. I'll speak for myself. And I always try to knock the corners out so that I don't have to worry too much about tear out, because you can get some really nasty tear out going from corner to corner on the end grain here. So I knock the corners out as deep as I can. There's a long way to go. It looks horrible, especially after you work so hard to get such nice clean edges. But see, you can see there that was with a corner knocked out, but there's a long way to go. It's really nothing to worry about. I'm looking at my work here, and I would say that I'm my own worst critic, but the internet is as it is, and there are worse critics out there, I'm sure. But I can see now, with the hindsight of a year and a half of working with hand tools on wood, with a day by day without fail, I can see where I cut corners. I just didn't pay attention to certain details, and it really has nothing to do with skill. That's what frustrates me about it. I know I've gotten better in my skills. That's the nature of working on something repetitiously, day in and day out. It's that on this piece here, I didn't pay attention to square, where my left thumb is resting. And I know it caused me trouble in assembly. And when I look at the piece now, in my bedroom, I cringe a little bit, because I could have done that much better, and it would have looked that much better. And now I'm just looking forward to making the next bed. And I'll tell you about that. There was this fantastic hardwood store in Oaken, New York, which is roughly 2 hours from Buffalo. And I used to drive there on a regular occasion. It's now closed because New York makes everything hard. It's getting ridiculous, but that's another rant for another video. And they had the most fantastic selection of every sort of wood, domestic and exotic and tropical. They had it in stock, and I used to go down there in the winter, and they would let you actually just go into the warehouse and rummage around. Before I finish this story, or at least even get started on it, this is what I'm talking about. This is a dull blade. And I fought for a long time so that I would not have to stop my work here to do the task of sharpening the blade. Even for lazy Dave, there comes a point when the exasperation is too much, and he's just going to sharpen the blade. And there it is. Oh, how proud you are of your shiny metal. For those of you who don't recognize it, this is the low angle block plane. It's really a nice piece. I love this tool. Oh, look, it works. Sharpening the blade. I'm not fighting it anymore. Just stop and sharpen. Advice to the young kids out there who are watching this. Sharpen your blades. So where was I? Oh, yes, I was rummaging around in the cold in a giant warehouse in Olean, New York, which is on the border of New York and Pennsylvania. And I was looking for oak. I was rummaging around. I didn't have much money at the time, and oak was, what, $2.90 a board foot, especially if you picked it out yourself and didn't have to ship it. And I got the oak, and I had him loading it up on my truck, and my eye caught on the other side of the warehouse, leaning against the wall, a bunch of mahogany crotches. Oh, and my heart was taken. And I went over and I saw they cost $100 a piece. Man, I really wanted one of those. So I sucked it up and I paid for it and I put it in my truck and I drove it home and I thought, what am I going to do with this mahogany crotch? And this was 2006, I think, 2005. Yeah, so this is 14 years ago. Yeah. And I thought, well, with a crotch, you're generally going to have to resaw it. You resaw a crotch in order to display the crazy grain patterns that occur as the grain, splits off from itself. And it forms this, wonderful mirror image and is dynamite, right? So I, finally realized that that's what I was going to have to do. Now, look, I'm still a beginner woodworker. I didn't have a decent saw yet, electric or hand saw. I was working with a lot of garbage and a couple of decent planes. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to get this thing resawed. So what? Am I just going to hang it in the house somewhere? And I finally kind of came to the realization that a resawed mahogany crotch will look really good as a headboard on a bed. All right. Now, I can't really afford mahogany as the main wood for this thing, for the frame of the bed. It was way outside my price range. And I thought, well, should I do something contrastive or complementary? And I finally settled on black walnut. Not exactly one of the cheaper woods. Now, black walnut is prepared in two different ways for working with. The first is steamed, and it's essentially kiln dried, and it's done on purpose, this steaming. And it's not for nefarious reasons. What it does is it takes the dark chocolate color and the white milky streaks, they're milky white that go through the wood, and the kiln process, drying process, creates steam and evens all that out, creating a kind of a grayish brown. And it's for consistency, so that furniture makers can churn out furniture makers can churn out furniture in due course, in short order, without having to worry about so-called imperfections. It's for the retail market, in other words. The other method is air drying, which preserves that dark chocolate color with the creamy milk white streaks that run through it. And of course, I thought I want that for my mahogany crotch. It will be perfect. And I found a nice gentleman out in northern Illinois who would ship it to me. And so I, a destitute father and husband, thought it would be good to spend $1,200 on some wood. As soon as it was delivered, I got sick. And I was sick for 3 years. When I recovered, I was on to other things. And in fact, I had acquired some tools and some knowledge. And I thought to myself, I don't really want to work on this really nice wood until I have some confidence. And I haven't sawed the mahogany crotch yet, and I haven't done anything with the black walnut except like keep it dry and with stickers and all that kind of stuff. So it's in good shape, and I'm starting to develop confidence. I'm working with some really nice cherry and making a table, and that project will be in a couple of video series from now. And once I'm done with that, I think I'm gonna turn my eye to that four-poster bed made of air-dried black walnut and featuring the mahogany crotch as the headboard. There's nothing quite so intoxicating as the aroma of brie wax as it stains and polishes. Well, it's not going to stain. I can't bring myself to stain wood. Well, I take that back. I have a couple of old projects, and I'll show those to you some other time. Some interesting things that are more artistic than for staining, I think. I think wax really brings out natural wood in a way that nothing else really does. And it works pretty well for a bed. You're not eating off the bed. Not really. And you're not really using anything particularly hot on your bed, are you? As for me, I already had 4 children by the time this bed was finished. See, you can agree with me. There's a lot to say for plain old waxing. I like to see the streaks and the knots and even some of the tooling. Those medullary rays, perhaps those are medullary rays. Those might be some other kind of wood imperfection. The cracks. I like seeing those things, especially with this particular project. I hope you can see what I see in this wood and why I picked it for a bed. These posts, these hulking beams that are alive, even though they've been hewn and taken from their place where they soaked in life. And now I have planed them and squared them and angled them and revealed some of the pain and some of the struggle that might be required, for example, to have a marriage and produce 4 children and have a lot of joy without much money and a lot of beauty. I don't know that this wood would be as beautiful as it is without the mottling that you see there, without the scarring that you see there, without this hurt that this tree incurred. I don't know that it would be as beautiful as it is. My name is John David Duke Jr. I am the wool-gathering woodworker. I hope all your tools are sharp and all the grain rises in your direction.